Hi everyone, my name is Ivica. Thank you so much for being on the latest episode of my I Am Gaming podcast. It's a podcast that examines the video game industry, entrepreneurship and gaming nostalgia all as a single unified field, at least in my humble view. Thank you so much for being on this video. I really appreciate it, especially because this is episode 10. Incredible, but we're in double digits. More precisely, this podcast is, but I'm saying we so I can artificially create a sense of community. 10 episodes so far. If you've been with me since the start, I can't thank you enough. Also, I can't thank enough my patrons. I have a few of them so far, which is amazing. This time I want to give a special thanks to Jason and the game that's called Rise, the Vienna province. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. It's something you need to check out if you're into space sims. But thanks also to my other patrons. You're really helping him out here and I'm super thankful. Also, if you want to support this Patreon page or my Patreon page and this podcast, I would be also eternally grateful. So check out the link in the description below and consider giving me a buck or two. It would be awesome. Now, for this episode, I wanted to go back to the roots of one of the key topics of the podcast, which is gaming, but actually game development and independent game creation, which is something that really interests me, especially from a perspective of a creator, somebody who creates games, but also from a perspective of seller of games, of somebody who actually wants to make a profit or create some material wealth through the same process. This episode is all about something I call the Doubletwist Approach. It's a form of designing a setting or a concept for your game, especially indie game. I'm always talking here about indie games. Huge games, AAA productions are cool. If you're working in a big company, that's awesome. I'm working in a medium-sized company that's called Madhead Games, which is also awesome. But all of them work on a completely different principle, or a set of completely different principles. I'm here basically almost always talking about indie games, which means one-man show, or one-person show, or whatever pronoun show, single pronoun show, and small teams. So indie games, games that don't have a budget or have a super small budget, someone who is creating something from zero, from scratch, and is trying to make it with it. Now, the Doubletwist Approach is a principle you can use when you're trying to create a setting or think of a setting that would work for your game. Now, this is an important element here. Doubletwist Approach does not examine gameplay mechanics. It doesn't examine genres. The Doubletwist Approach considers the first starting point, the idea that you already have some kind of idea what genre you want to make. But then through a simple but gradual process of 3 steps, or I call them 3 layers, it helps you to define or distill approach into something that might be novel and that might help you with further steps in the game development process or pre-production, which could allow your game to stand out. Now, why is it important for games to stand out? It's not a crucial thing, but it's one of the things that actually sells your game. Basically, anyone can make anything and it can be an incredibly successful game, not just in terms of critical reviews and what people are saying about it, but also in terms of sales. It doesn't matter. Anything can succeed, anything can create a whole lot of money, attention, satisfied players, and generally success. But it also really does matter to help yourself while you cover all of your bases. So an original game basically stands a better shot than to succeed than an unoriginal game if they are somehow, we can't measure that, but in theory, if they are somehow on the same level of quality. Also, an original concept helps you while you promote your game. Before people can play it, they will latch on to things that look, feel and seem more interesting. They seem novel. Now, it's also important to state that novelty is not something that will sell the game or make it successful on its own, because games are still products that are complex products, involve many elements and so forth and so forth, but still originality or novelty is something that in theory, if everything is on the same footing, helps immeasurably, especially while you promote your game, while still no one can try it out. But novelty in that phase allows you to get some kind of a connection with your potential customers, where they remember at least your game as something interesting and have that aha moment when they potentially see it later on a market or wherever they want to, wherever they can buy it or get it. So, how does Doubletwist work? Let's take an example. It's the most plastic way of me to explain it, and I think you're going to get it quickly. Let's say that we want to make a detective investigation game. And we have some ideas about the mechanics. It won't be anything original or super different, it won't have any huge features, it will be a basic adventure detective game. Cool. Now, where does that game take place? It can take place anywhere, literally anything from the Stone Age to the distant future to any kind of imaginary universe would do, including real and contemporary setting. Let's say that we want to place it in the noir period of 1920s. So it's something that that's instantly recognizable. You have your people, you have your characters in fedoras and coats, and they smoke cigarettes and they look tough. You have your damsels in distress and everything else that's super familiar from movies, TV shows, comic books, novels, which actually invented the whole genre, and so forth. It's boring. It's been done many times and everyone has some kind of idea about it. It can still be a great game, it can be a fantastic game, whatever style of visual art, visual production or visual asset design you want to use. It can look realistic, it can look stylish, it can look minimalistic, it can be pixel art, it can be anything. But still the setting is something that's really familiar, very familiar. And the way to now use the Doubletwist approach is to say, okay, this is layer 1. Layer 1 is fine. But let's see, and we can use a second layer which actually adds a novel twist to that noir classical trope setting. So let's say it's not the human 1920s, it's an animal world of 1920s. So everything is the same, with the distinction that the characters are not human, they're animal. So you have your bears, your wolves, your owls, whatever. You can define them as it did, as they kind of tried or did in Zootopia, where you say, okay, predators are cops, grazers are these, and you can kind of make a caste system that works inside of that universe. Now this is interesting because it's something relatively new. Of course, it's not brand new. You have games like this, literally like this, which use the same setup as you just figured out. So it's not novel. You try to do a twist, but it kind of failed in the sense that you didn't get anything brand new. That's fine as well, because it's the second of 3 steps. The third step of the Doubletwist approach actually includes the second twist. So it's the third layer, but the second twist. Let's say that the third layer uses a twist upon the second concept. So we have animals and neo-noir or noir setup of the 1920s, but let's add that second twist to it. So let's say that they're not really animals, they're toys, and the entire universe of the game is actually set in a boy's room or a girl's room or anything else, a human room, which is filled with toys. And these toys are animal, like stuffed animals, but they're actually in the world of their own, like in, for example, Toy Story, where they come alive and the kid is not playing with them. It all becomes a form of a really serious, really well-defined noir city. There, you have your player character, which is a stuffed animal like everyone else, who begins an investigation of some kind of a crime. The whole game, this would be actually a third twist, but it's not that big, so we won't call it a third. We're still on a third last layer using the second twist. The whole game takes place in a single night. So the game starts with the kid going to sleep and some crime happening and everything becoming so dramatic and different than its usual state in that universe, which is only suggested, never presented. And you have to solve the crime. But you have until the morning before the kid wakes up to have everything wrapped up. Now, that's original. It may have a lot of problems with it. It may end up being dumb or not that relevant to the players. It could be a whole range of issues with it. But it's still something that feels interesting. Okay, maybe there are games like this, maybe it's a bad example and I just don't know about them, but it at the same time offers a vision of a game that could be something of a mix when it comes to movies, at least in narrative terms, of Toy Story meets Brick from Rian Johnson, the movie from 2005, which is an excellent movie, you need to check it out. And right there you have something that's really different, where every stuffed animal can look cute, seem like a regular animal apart with some small noir elements like the cats or whatever, but they can still behave and present themselves super seriously. And that already provides something of a different setting, something of a unique setting, and something of a setting that's instantly connectable to players. They can immediately get what's going on. They might not like it, but they can get it and understand it. Now, before I get into the rest of the Doubletwist approach, I just want to say that, again, huge thanks to Jason, one of my new patrons, and don't forget to check out the game Jason and the community are working on, which is called Rise, the Vieneo. I always have problems pronouncing it. Rise, the Vieneo province. I think I got it. It's a really cool game. I tried it out multiple times. It's a tough game. It has a lot. It offers a lot of challenge to players because it has a super steep learning curve. But at the same time, if you're into games like Elite Dangerous or Freelancer or any kind of simulation game, which basically Vieneo Province is a simulation, a virtual world with some gaming elements, but not like a predefined set of goals and stuff like that. It's an open universe. You need to check it out. I'm certain you will love it because it has so many things going for it, especially when it comes to complexity, depth, and an awesome community. The community is still small, so this is a great moment to get on board, try it out, and if you like it, I think you're probably gonna find one of the bigger surprises in your gaming history, at least in the last couple of years, when it comes to titles like this. So check it out, Rise, the Vieneo province. It is going to rock your world if you're into space simulations and generally rich games with super amounts of context and content that you can enjoy. With that, let's get back to the finishing ideas about the Doubletwist approach. I defined and explained how it should work when you use it. It's not a foolproof system. It will often fail you. It will provide bad ideas, unfunctional ideas, and sometimes the layers and the twists you're adding will be only like half-assing it, where you just go through the motions and still get nothing, where you simply add twists that are also been done before, and you start with something unoriginal and end up with something more complex but equally unoriginal. That's all a possibility. But while it's not a foolproof way of creating any kind of gaming setup, hopefully it's able to provide you with a different approach to brainstorming or second level brainstorming, where you already have kind of a game you want to make in terms of mechanics or visuals, and you want to make the setting original, new, and something that feels fresh to the players. Hopefully it does something to you, and hopefully this video and this episode of I Am Gaming also does the same in terms of at least giving you an idea that might be partially useful. If it does, I'm super thankful for you watching this and for staying until the very end. If you're still here, please check out my Patreon page, link is in the description below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like and comment if you didn't before or so far. My name is Ivica, this was the 10th episode of I'm Gaming Podcast. Again, thank you for being here, and I'll be seeing you on the next episode. Until then, have a great day and bye bye.